Welcome to another episode of the NBA Monday Report. First off, quick note, next week we're going to be off because of scheduling difficulties, and I will not be here. But right now, let's jump right in. Joel Embiid is an all-star. An all-star starter to begin with. First of all of the Boston Celtics fans that said that Al Horford is better than Joel Embiid, and then Joel Embiid hung up one of the better games of the season himself on the Celtics. I think that explains itself, and that explains itself why Sixers could be very, very special once they figure the thing out. On the other hand, the All-Star voting that happened, we got the 10 starters, and then all of the choices, all of the captains will be picking their players behind closed doors. And according to Steph Curry, that is because they don't want the players to get ridiculed or made fun of on Twitter or anything like that, or feel bad for being picked last. Let's be entirely honest. There's only one player out of those 10 who's not a captain who would make himself upset by stuff people said on Twitter, even though he was one of the top 10 vote getters in the NBA. There was specifically one player who would care enough for that, care enough particularly to go online, seek out those accounts making fun of him, and respond to them from other fake accounts. I wonder who could that be. But, back to Joel. After he got voted an All-Star starter, he got asked about a particular encounter he had when he got drafted, and here's what he had to say.
You were denied by a young woman who told you to come back when you were an all-star. Is there anything you'd like to say to anybody on TNT right now?
I mean, she denied me back then, so why go with her again? So I have to pass that and move on to the next one.
You've got the mic. Anything you'd like to say?
Trust the process.
Thanks, Joel.
Oh, did he just turn Riri down on national?
I'm really enjoying this part because I love it when Ernie says culture things on TV. It's really great. It still sounds like your grandpa coming in and saying different things to just be relevant. But second, I think Joel Embiid might be the first man in the history of men to curve Rihanna, ever. Let's be honest. She still wasn't gonna be yo, I'm in your DMs now. We're here now. But I think Joel Embiid has successfully accomplished something that a lot of guys have been on the reverse side of, and on top of that, I think he might also get the process tattooed across his back if he hasn't already, but we'll see. Meanwhile, on TNT, Jalen Rose, Tracy McGrady, and Paul Pierce had a discussion about Paul Pierce's tribute night, where Paul Pierce obviously publicly spoke out against Isaiah Thomas getting the tribute on the same night, where Jalen Rose let Paul Pierce have it.
What about something that you did in the community? What about something that you brought to the team that was really special? By the way, the Boston Celtics did turn around their fortunes since you played there when Isaiah Thomas was leading them.
Right.
He was a part of them being a number one seed. He had tragedy with the team. He even played in a playoff game after his sister tragically passed away. Next, I gotta say a word for you, fam. I think it was petty.
Ooh! On who?
On Paul Pierce's part.
In what part?
I love Paul. This is my brother.
Part?
Because to me, there are going to be all type of announcements that happen in the 48 minutes during that game.
Okay.
All types.
Okay.
Including celebrating Isaiah Thomas could be one of them. What does not take away from your situation like Kobe's that happened during the game, because they're doing yours post game.
Right.
I mean, I respect that Jalen is standing up for this. I do get the second side of the argument is where do you draw lines about player tributes? Do you do a tribute for every player? Do you do a tribute for, lowly players? They joked about getting a tribute for Gerald Green, which I think Houston should do because on a 10-day contract, just off a 10-day contract, that are only 20 days with the team, Gerald Green was ready to fight Austin Rivers. To be fair, I'm ready to fight Austin Rivers right now, and I'm not even signed by an NBA team, so if Houston needs me for that next bout, let me know, fly me out, I'll handle it, and I'll take my suspension. You can just have me on the books for those 10, give me a 10-day, and I'll handle it for you. It's Austin Rivers. I'll do it. I'll do it at a discount, too. I can give you some of the money back behind closed doors. But on the other hand, like, who does Paul Pierce think he is? Like, I get it, he's one of the greatest Celtics, and cool, and that's fine. And like, you're getting a tribute night. Like, they're gonna do trivia during halftime and during other things. But like they're gonna wear Paul Pierce masks, and everybody's gonna be Paul Pierce, and Paul Pierce is gonna be allowed to play for the Boston Celtics, for a quarter in that game just to honor him. Like, are any of the Celtics currently in the team actually allowed to play on that night, so it doesn't interfere with Paul Pierce's ceremony? Because I mean, like, they're gonna be Celtics, they're gonna be wearing Celtics green. Like, are they allowed? I think honoring players during games is a good thing in terms of, like, yes, you show players that you care, and it's a good thing to use smaller players because it sells the team, right? It's like Waj said later in an interview, it shows other players that this is an organization that values you. Isaiah refused it because the way they treated him showed him they don't value him, so who gives a shit if you give him a tribute or not, because you traded him for nothing, and you basically, like, said whatever you did for the city means nothing to us, in the way you dealt with the situation. So it's totally understandable. I feel like with Paul Pierce and everything, I think there's going to be more things around that than just, like, at the game tribute to make him part of the organization, no jersey in the rafters. So it is selfish of Paul to make this whole night about himself, because I feel like, are we even allowed to have the All-Star game this year, or the playoffs, or the finals, because Paul Pierce won the finals? Ooh boy, the NBA is getting spicy. It's getting spicy. We had an altercation between the Clippers and the Houston Rockets. For those of you who don't know, a few things happened in the game. Blake Griffin got his shorts pulled off, and then he decided that it was time to smack Aaron Gordon in the head with a basketball for it. On top of that, after that, Mike D'Antoni had a few choice words for Blake Griffin himself.
Here's the words. Here's the words
You
between
suck.
D'Antoni and Blake Griffin.
Your movie sucks. You're a terrible
The
actor.
official.
And then, of course, on top of everything else, there was an altercation between Austin Rivers and Trevor Ariza. Unfortunately, I don't have the clip, where Austin Rivers thought that he was somebody in the NBA and it matters enough to step off the bench and square up to the Clippers. After which Trevor Ariza got involved, Blake Griffin got involved, both got ejected, but it didn't end there. Apparently, there's a secret series of catacombs, like an El Chapo prison, underneath the Staples Center, and the Houston Rockets, Chris Paul, Trevor Ariza, James Harden, and Gerald Green, who was on a 1-year contract, only 20 days with the team, went behind through those tunnels to try and confront Austin Rivers, which is fair because I don't think Austin Rivers is confrontable. You don't take things from Austin Rivers. Like, I don't think his dad writes for him, like, as much as anybody would or should. They sent Clint Capela through the front door to act as a distraction. Sorry guys, do you have 5 minutes to learn about our Lord and Savior, the 7 seconds or less offense? No, please don't close it. Sir, please don't close it. Nah. And then, in the meantime, the Clippers snuck around the back, the Rockets snuck around the back and tried to fight Austin Rivers. Which, it's Austin Rivers. I get that he antagonizes players, and I get that happens. And I think that puts Clippers in an even more precarious position, because I don't think anybody on that Clippers team physically wants to ride for Austin Rivers. I don't think Doc Rivers physically wants to ride for Austin Rivers. Nobody's out here to lose a paycheck or get bruised up or injured for Austin. But they have to, because he's on the Clippers. He's on the team. So, you got to do what you got to do. Squared up to the Clippers. Apparently the police were called. No, physical violence happened, apparently. But I'm going to let Chuck and Kenny handle it. Chuck and Shaq handle the response to this, because I got no words except for...
Are you kidding me? Wait, come on, man.
Numerous social media reports that LAPD was called.
LAPD was called. See, these two, man. Come on, man. You know why they're laughing? Come on, man. Because they would...
I mean, All of this seems weird. Like, I get rivalries and I appreciate rivalries, but I don't think, like, none of them are serious. Like, obviously Trevor Ariza was. Obviously, if Trevor Booker was around or Patrick Beverley, they may have, like, killed a man. But for the most part, like, I don't think Blake Griffin wants anything with anybody. I don't think Chris Paul wants anything with anybody. I think Chris Paul would have led them through that tunnel and just stepped back and let Trevor Ariza and Gerald Green handle everything. I think Pop hits it right on the head. None of these players wants to fight. Like, they want to posture up. Like, watch Kevin Durant every time he gets into altercation with a smaller player and backs right away whenever somebody bigger comes around.
Sir, what about player versus player incidents? There were a couple over the past couple of days on Martin Luther King.
Oh, you mean those typical NBA fights where they go, let me at him, let me at him. Waiting for somebody to hold me back. I would have kicked his ass. I would have kicked him if somebody held me back. The NBA fights are the silliest, namby-pambiest things I've ever seen in my life. Except there was that one in the stands a few years ago. That one got ugly. But nobody wants those fights. You know, even the players don't want those fights.
Yeah, and Pop hits the nail on the head here with that analysis. I don't think any of these guys want to fight. But that wasn't the only fight. There was a lot of fighting in the NBA this week. I think they're bringing back the good old days that Chuck missed. We had Aaron Aflalo take a wild UFC swing at Nemanja Bjelica, apparently because Bjelica told him that Kendrick Lamar's not jealous of him anymore. We had Tim Frazier run through half court trying to confront Michael Carter-Williams after Michael Carter-Williams acted out, trying to be relevant again because, you know, he's washed up. And we had Kyle Lowry and Ben Simmons altercation that pretty much ended in Ben Simmons telling Kyle Lowry to meet him outside, which Kyle's from Philly. I don't know if I would do that. In honor of that, we're closing tonight's episode with a little tribute.
Shove, elbow by Trevor Ariza.
See, these two, man.
Come on, man.
You know why they're laughing at me.
Come on, man.
Because they would. Dirty. No, the issue is they would.
So, thanks for watching the NBA Monday Report. If you enjoyed what you saw, hit subscribe somewhere at the bottom. There's some buttons there. Everybody has a button, so please hit subscribe, hit like. It really does help us a lot. If you want to read more about the NBA or any other sports, check us out on Grandstand Central. A lot of my writing always appears there. And we'll see you guys next Monday.
I'm a man up on a mission. I make the impossible quite possible. Eating hunt when I'm spitting. Who the fuck am I kidding? I'm quite the straight.